of their Lord comes to them, كَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ. They turn away from it. They neglect it. Al-i'rad an al-shay means to ignore something. It doesn't mean to miss something. Like you didn't see something. It doesn't mean to miss something or not see something. Al-i'rad an al-shay means to ignore something. And Allah uses the word kanu. They consistently ignored the signs all around them. Every single time Allah provided a new sign, they ignored the signs around them. كَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ. And now Allah talks about that their negligence, their apathy, their disregard, eventually turned into arrogance. Right? It turned into arrogance. First they ignored it, neglected it, turned away from it. But that eventually developed into arrogance. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. And then when it is said to them, أَنْفِقُوا, spend. مِمَّا, that's two words. Min means from, ma means that. From that, رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ, from that which Allah provided you. This statement in the Quran, to me it's like, it always gets me. It is such a powerful statement in the Quran. It's really worth thinking about. Like Allah says, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Think about what that means. First and foremost, it's saying رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. Right? رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah gave it to you. Okay, so first thing we know, Allah gave me everything I have. That's what I know, number one. Then Allah is saying, spend from what Allah gave you. So Allah is telling me to give back what He gave me. It seems like there should be no negotiation about that, right? There should be no negotiation about that. But then Allah doesn't even, He's not asking me to give back everything that He gave me. He's saying min. Min li-tab'id. Min means a portion of something. Allah is saying just give a little bit back of that which we gave you. Let me give you an example. Again, this is not to equate anything from Allah. Nothing compares to Allah. But let me give you just a basic example. If I gave you $10 for no reason whatsoever, I just walked up to you and be like, hey, how's it going? Good? Here's $10. And you're like, okay, jazakallah khair, thank you. And then I go outside and they're selling sodas for 50 cents or whatever. And I realize I'm thirsty or I'd like a soda. But then I check my pockets and I'm like, oh, I don't have any money. I just gave, he saved my last $10. So I come back in and I'm like, hey, can I have 50 cents? And you're like, sorry, bro, I can't really. It's like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't got any money, man. It's like, what? I just gave you $10. What do you mean you have no money? How could you say you have no money? Right? Imam Nadeem, pull up the security footage. I just gave him $10. How's he going to say you ain't got no money? Right? And he's like, no, I don't got any money. Sorry, I got a lot of bills to pay. What do you mean you got bills? I just gave you $10. My $10. Give me 50 cents. I don't know. I'll beat you up right now. I can't beat you up in the masjid. It's not nice. So I'm going to drag you outside and beat you up. Alright? It'd be aggravating. It'd be unbelievable. Like, I don't even know how I'd process that situation. I would resort to violence so quick just because I wouldn't know what else to do with that situation. I just gave you $10. What do you mean you can't give me 50 cents? I gave you $10. For no reason. I didn't even owe you that $10. I just gave it to you. And you can't give me 50 cents? What's wrong with you? Didn't your mother love you when you were a child? Right? So it's preposterous. It's ridiculous. Now consider what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's arrangement with us is. Allah gave us everything. I'm going to use the most basic example. I'm going to use the example of zakat. The annual charity zakat. First of all, zakat isn't mandatory on everybody. It's only mandatory on those people that Allah gave at least a certain amount to. Not that He gave something to, at least a certain amount to. And I'm going to oversimplify for a second, if y'all will allow me. The point where zakat becomes mandatory is if you have at least like $1,500 in savings for a year. Outside of your needs and necessities. Outside of your house, outside of your car, outside of your bills, outside of everything else. If you've had at least $1,500 for at least a year, then you pay zakat on only that $1,500. Not your house, not your car. Which, by the way, in America, what's the most expensive thing anybody owns? Their house. And then what's the second most expensive thing somebody owns? Their car. And then the third most expensive thing people usually own, right? Their electronics or devices, right? People got $4,000 television set. All right? And then people got like laptops and cell phones and devices and appliances. You don't pay zakat on any of that. Nothing. So you don't pay zakat on pretty much like the 10 most expensive things you own. It is only the liquid fluid cash that the liquid assets that you own that have been saved up for at least a year. And business investment stuff, but that gets complicated. Simplified. Common person. All right? So a guy with just a 9-to-5 job, don't pay zakat on your house, you don't pay it on your car, you don't pay it on your clothes, you don't pay it on your electronics. It is, I got $2,000 in a savings account for at least a year, you just pay zakat only on that much. So you have to qualify. Not everybody pays it, you only pay that much. And then oversimplified. How much zakat do you pay? You pay 2.5% of the savings you have. You only pay 2.5% of that. That's it. So $1,000 bucks, $25. Once a year. That's zakat. That's it. And we negotiate that. So, brother, I wanted to ask you, I owe money on this. Do I still have to pay zakat? It's like, let me slap you. Come here. Come here. Right? Let me slap you, and then I'll give you an answer. If you're going to ask me whether you should pay 30 bucks in zakat, are you stupid? Did something go wrong with you? Right? Like, what's wrong with you? Is something broken? Do you not understand? Right? It's such a profound, because if you process the way Allah says it, أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah says, I gave you everything. Now only take a little small bitty part of it. Right? 2.5% of your savings is not even 1% of your worth. It's like 1/4% of what you're worth, 0.5% of what you're worth, or even less than that. Just take 50 bucks and give it back. That's it. So it's really a profound statement when you think about it. أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, when it is said to them, when they are reminded, when Allah says, when the Prophet says, when the Imam says, when the believers say, spend from that which, spend a little bit of that which Allah gave you. Spend a little bit of that which Allah gave you. قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Those who disbelieve, those who are ungrateful, those who reject and deny, they say to the believers, أَنُطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. They say, أَنُطْعِمُ, should we feed? Should we give food to? Should we provide? Man, to the person, لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُ. If Allah wanted that person to be fed so badly, Allah would have fed him himself. So when they're told, hey, listen, give money to these hungry people, give money to these poor people, give money to these homeless people, they say, listen, if Allah wanted that person to be fed so badly, He should have done it Himself. If Allah wanted these people not to be homeless, then He wouldn't have made them homeless. Of course, you can see the arrogance. The arrogance in that. And then they say, "In antum illa fi dhalalin mubin." There's actually two interpretations. Who is saying this to who? Some mufassirun say the believers in response then say to the disbelievers, "In antum illa fi dhalalin mubin." Y'all are very, very seriously wrong. You are in clear misguidance. But actually, the more proper understanding, based on the flow of the speech and the conversation, is that the disbelievers say to the believers, do you want me to feed somebody that if God wanted him to be fed, He would have fed him Himself? And then the disbeliever says to the believer, man, you're really misguided. Like you're really confused. You should figure this stuff out, please. Right? Like, oh, you actually believe in this nonsense? You should broaden your intellectual horizons. Right? You need to philosophically think about what you're saying. Right? Then no, that's how preposterous it is. Never, never, ever doubt your faith and your devotion, your dedication to Allah because of the mindless rambling of somebody who's clouding, who is shrouding their disbelief and disregard for everything and anything good in the cloak of rationalism or intellectualism. Don't be deterred. Don't be deluded by such people. In antum illa fi dhalalin mubin. وَيَقُولُونَ, and then they say, مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ? مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ? Because obviously when they see something as offensive as that if God wanted these people to be fed, He would have fed them Himself. The believers of course say, hey, please brother, hey, can you please not talk like that? That's very offensive and kind of scary. So I'm going to hurry up and back away from you before you get struck by lightning. Right? Like, it's scary. Somebody talk about Allah like that? So they say, don't talk like that. Right? You know, I don't want the punishment of Allah coming. So they say, يَقُولُونَ, they say, مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ? مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ? When is this promise going to happen? When is this punishment from God going to come? When is this day of judgment going to occur? إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you're actually telling the truth, then when is all this going to happen? So they respond by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather responds by saying, مَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَّا صَيْحَةً وَاحِدًا. They are not waiting for anything except the one loud, huge blast. صَيْحَةً وَاحِدًا. تَأْخُذُهُمْ وَهُمْ يَخِصِّمُونَ. And that one huge blast and punishment from Allah will come and it will snatch them up. It will snatch the life right out of them. وَهُمْ يَخِصِّمُونَ. While they're still standing there arguing. They'll still be standing there running their mouth at Allah. They'll still be standing there running their mouth off about Allah. And a huge punishment will come from Allah and snatch the life right out of them. تَأْخُذُهُمْ وَهُمْ يَخِصِّمُونَ. فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ تَوْصِيَةً. فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ تَوْصِيَةً. They will not have the ability to leave any type of a will behind. They won't have the ability to say any last words to their loved ones or to their families. وَلَا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And nor will they ever return back to their families ever again. What does it mean that they won't return back to their families? This is talking about people, bad people who were killed or who died because of the punishment and the anger and the wrath of Allah. And it says that they will die and they'll never come back to their families again. Do religious people, when they die, do they come back to their families? Like Casper the Friendly Ghost, right? Do religious people come back to visit their families? Then what does it mean that they'll never come back to their... Nobody comes back to their families. What does it mean? They'll never come back to their families ever again.
To make things right.
What's that? Right, there we go. In the hereafter. See, the Quran tells us that good people in the good graces of God, people who pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or tried to, they'll be reunited with their families in paradise. So much so that the Quran tells us that وَمَنْ صَلَحَ مِنْ آبَائِهِمْ وَأَزْوَاجِهِمْ وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ. Right? The Quran tells us that people in paradise, even if they're at varying stages and levels of paradise, they'll say, Ya Allah, I want to be reunited with my family. What kind of a Jannah, what kind of paradise is it without my family? And so they'll be reunited and joined together with their families again. But if like one family member is in a higher stage of paradise and the rest of the family is in the lower level of paradise, what's more logical? That one person go and join the rest. But there are no downgrades in paradise. There are no downgrades in Jannah. There are only upgrades. Allah will upgrade the entire family because of that one person in a higher level of paradise. They will be reunited with their families. But people that are doomed to the fire of hell, they won't be reunited with their families. There's nothing ridiculous or preposterous like a family in hell getting together to have dinner, to sit around on their fire table, dining table made of fire table, right? And to eat their fire food on their fire table, right? That's preposterous. There's no family in hell, right? In fact, Surah number 41, this is a little scary, but it even tells us that they will say, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا رَبَّنَا أَرِنَا الَّذِينَ أَضَلَّانَا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ نَجْعَلْهُمَا تَحْتَ أَقْدَامِنَا لِيَكُونَا مِنَ الْأَسْفَلِينَ. People in hell will actually seek each other out, including family. Anybody that I feel, the paranoia, right? Like in prison, they talk about people have like paranoia, right? Hellfire, people will be paranoid. They will seek out anyone that they think that they want to blame for, because people are going to want to blame somebody to lessen the guilt and the remorse and the regret. They'll look for even family members. You, because of you, I ended up over here. And they will ask Allah, oh Allah, let me have that person so that I can stomp him and crush him. People in hell will eat away at each other, will rip each other to shreds. They'll be part of the punishment in the hellfire. So families won't be reunited. Families will be at each other's throats. Will want to murder each other in the hellfire. May Allah protect us all. Alright? So Allah says, وَلَا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. These people will not be reunited with their families. And that leads us to ayah number 51. which is the fourth, no, yes, sorry, which is the fourth passage of Surat Yaseen. In this we'll talk about the life of the hereafter. Fourth passage we'll talk about the hereafter, inshallah. Y'all been sitting for quite some time. Salat al-Asr is at 4:45, which, because of Asr doesn't require